The morning sun streamed through the large studio windows of the Lorraine Kelly show set in London, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere that millions of viewers across Britain had come to love and expect from the popular daytime television program. Neil Dudgeon, the talented and well-respected actor best known for his long-running role as Detective Chief Inspector John Barnaby in the hit ITV series Midsomer Murders, arrived at the studios feeling relaxed and prepared for what he believed would be a light-hearted chat about his career, upcoming projects, and perhaps some behind-the-scenes anecdotes from the beloved murder mystery drama that had captivated audiences for years. Lorraine Kelly, the experienced Scottish presenter with her trademark friendly smile and approachable demeanor, greeted him warmly as he took his seat on the comfortable couch opposite her. The audience in the studio clapped enthusiastically, many of them longtime fans of both the show and the actor who had brought so much depth and humor to his character in the quaint yet deadly villages of Midsomer. As the cameras rolled and the interview began, everything seemed perfectly normal, with Lorraine asking standard questions about how Neil managed to keep the long-running series fresh after so many episodes and what it was like working with different guest stars each week. Neil responded with his usual charm and wit, sharing amusing stories about filming in picturesque English countryside locations and the challenges of portraying a detective who constantly solved bizarre crimes involving everything from maypole dances gone wrong to deadly village fates. Little did anyone know that this seemingly routine segment was about to take a dramatic and unexpected turn that would leave viewers shocked and talking for days afterward. The conversation flowed smoothly at first, touching on Neil's early career in theater and his transition to television, with Lorraine nodding encouragingly and interjecting with relatable comments that made the exchange feel like a friendly fireside chat rather than a formal interview. Fans watching at home settled in with their morning cups of tea, appreciating the chance to see one of Britain's favorite character actors in a more personal light, away from the serious crime-solving persona he embodied on screen. The studio lights gleamed brightly, highlighting the colorful set decorations and the large screens displaying clips from Midsomer Murders episodes that Lorraine had prepared to illustrate their discussion. Neil appeared at ease, crossing his legs casually and gesturing with his hands as he described the camaraderie among the cast and crew, emphasizing how the show had become like a family over the decades. However, subtle shifts in Lorraine's tone began to emerge as she steered the questions toward more probing territory, asking about the portrayal of rural life in the series and whether it accurately reflected modern Britain or perhaps romanticized certain aspects that some critics had labeled as outdated or stereotypical. Neil handled these inquiries with professionalism, defending the show's escapist appeal while acknowledging that entertainment often simplified complex social issues for dramatic effect. The audience remained engaged, laughing at his quick comebacks and nodding in agreement with his thoughtful responses. Yet beneath the surface politeness, tensions were simmering, building toward what would soon explode into one of the most memorable and controversial moments in recent daytime television history. As the clock ticked forward, the exchange grew more intense, setting the stage for a fiery confrontation that no one in the studio or at home could have anticipated from such a seemingly innocuous guest appearance. Suddenly, Lorraine's questions took a sharper edge, moving away from light career reflections into pointed criticisms that caught Neil off guard and shifted the entire dynamic of the interview in an instant. She began referencing online discussions and media articles that accused Midsomer Murders of lacking diversity in its casting and storylines, suggesting that the program's focus on predominantly white, middle-class English villages perpetuated harmful stereotypes and failed to represent the multicultural reality of contemporary Britain. Neil listened carefully, his expression changing from relaxed to more serious as he defended the series by explaining that it was intentionally set in a fictional, exaggerated version of rural England designed for mystery and comedy rather than social commentary, pointing out that many long-running shows maintained certain stylistic consistencies to satisfy their dedicated fan base. The studio audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing the rising tension as Lorraine pressed further, asking if Neil felt any personal responsibility as the lead actor for not advocating more strongly for inclusive changes in the production. His responses remained measured and articulate, emphasizing that creative decisions were made by a large team of writers, producers, and executives, and that the show's enduring popularity spoke to its success in delivering what viewers wanted: clever plots, quirky characters, and satisfying resolutions rather than heavy-handed messaging. However, Lorraine seemed unsatisfied with these answers, her usually warm Scottish accent taking on a more confrontational tone as she interrupted him mid-sentence to cite specific viewer complaints and social media campaigns calling for the series to evolve with the times. Neil's patience started to wear thin, visible in the slight tightening of his jaw and the more direct eye contact he maintained with the host. He countered by noting that Midsomer Murders had introduced diverse guest stars over the years and that forcing artificial diversity into every aspect of a story could sometimes undermine the authenticity of the narrative world the creators had built so carefully. The exchange escalated quickly, with both parties speaking over each other at moments, their voices rising above the polite murmurs of the studio crew who exchanged worried glances behind the cameras. Viewers at home began reaching for their phones to comment live on social media, some supporting Neil's defense of artistic freedom while others applauded Lorraine for raising important societal issues during what was supposed to be entertainment programming. The atmosphere in the studio grew electric, the friendly morning show vibe evaporating as the firing exchange intensified, highlighting deep divides in opinions about representation in British television that extended far beyond this single interview. Neil maintained his composure remarkably well under the pressure, drawing on years of experience performing under demanding conditions, but it was clear that the conversation had veered into territory he had not prepared for and that he felt was being handled unfairly. Lorraine, known for her straightforward interviewing style, showed no signs of backing down, continuing to challenge his points with follow-up questions that probed deeper into his personal views on cultural shifts in the entertainment industry. As the debate heated up even more, Neil Dudgeon finally reached his limit when Lorraine made a particularly dismissive remark about how actors like him should use their platforms to push for progressive changes rather than defending traditional formats that she described as relics of a less enlightened era. His face flushed slightly with frustration, and he responded with a passionate rebuttal that highlighted the importance of storytelling that entertained first and foremost, arguing that not every program needed to serve as a vehicle for social engineering and that audiences deserved the right to enjoy escapist fiction without constant lectures on modern sensitivities. The studio fell into a stunned silence for a brief moment as his words hung in the air, the audience members looking back and forth between the two figures on stage with a mix of shock and intrigue. Lorraine attempted to regain control of the segment by cutting in with another question, but Neil stood his ground, calmly yet firmly stating that he had come on the show to discuss his work positively and not to be subjected to what felt like an ambush on his professional choices and personal beliefs. Tensions peaked when she suggested that his reluctance to embrace certain changes reflected a broader resistance in the industry that needed to be called out publicly, prompting Neil to retort that such accusations bordered on unfair character judgment and that true diversity included respecting different creative visions rather than enforcing a single ideological perspective. At this point, the producers in the control room could be seen gesturing urgently to the floor manager, realizing that the interview was spiraling out of control and risking turning into a public relations nightmare for the long-running morning program. Neil's voice grew stronger as he defended not only Midsomer Murders but also the broader principle of allowing artists and creators the freedom to tell stories that resonated with their intended audience without constant external pressure to conform to fleeting cultural trends. The firing exchange continued with rapid back-and-forth responses, each one more pointed than the last, as Lorraine accused him of being out of touch with contemporary values while he countered that imposing modern politics on light entertainment often resulted in alienating the very viewers who had supported the show for decades. Studio staff began whispering among themselves, and some audience members could be heard murmuring in agreement or disagreement, adding to the chaotic energy filling the room. What had started as a promotional appearance for the actor had transformed into a high-stakes confrontation that exposed underlying cultural battles playing out across British media and society at large. Neil's body language shifted to a more assertive posture, leaning forward slightly as he emphasized his points with clear, deliberate gestures, refusing to be steamrolled by the host's persistent questioning. The entire segment had become must-watch television for entirely unexpected reasons. with social media exploding in real time as clips began circulating online even before the interview concluded. The breaking point arrived when Lorraine, in an attempt to wrap up or perhaps regain the upper hand, made a cutting comment implying that Neil's defense of the show's traditional elements showed a lack of willingness to adapt, suggesting that perhaps it was time for actors of his generation to step aside and let newer, more progressive voices take center stage in British drama. This remark proved to be the final straw for Neil Dudgeon, who responded with visible anger mixed with dignified restraint, declaring that such statements were not only disrespectful to his long career but also insulting to the millions of loyal fans who continued to enjoy Midsomer Murders precisely because of its consistent tone and style. He then stood up from the couch abruptly, adjusting his jacket with deliberate movements while stating clearly that he had no interest in continuing a conversation that had devolved into personal attacks rather than constructive dialogue. The studio audience gasped audibly, their applause from earlier now replaced by stunned silence interspersed with scattered reactions of surprise and support. Lorraine attempted to call him back to the seat, her voice rising in an effort to salvage the segment, but Neil shook his head firmly and began walking toward the edge of the set, his steps measured and purposeful as he exited the main interview area. Producers rushed forward from the wings, trying to intervene and smooth things over, but the damage had already been done in front of the live cameras and the watching public. The moment Neil left the immediate filming zone, the control room made the quick decision to cut to a commercial break, with Lorraine left somewhat flustered on screen as she tried to transition smoothly to the next part of the show while addressing the unexpected departure. Viewers at home were left in disbelief, many rewinding their recordings or checking social media feeds to confirm what they had just witnessed: a beloved actor seemingly being pushed to the point of walking off a popular morning television program after a heated and fiery exchange. Clips of the confrontation began trending almost immediately, with hashtags related to both Neil Dudgeon and Lorraine Kelly soaring in popularity as people debated who was in the right and whether the host had crossed professional boundaries by turning a friendly chat into a political debate. The incident sparked widespread discussions about the role of daytime television in addressing serious societal issues versus providing escapism and entertainment for its primarily older demographic audience. Neil's team later released a brief statement expressing disappointment at the direction the interview had taken and affirming his commitment to respectful public discourse, while the show's producers issued their own carefully worded response emphasizing their commitment to open conversation on a variety of topics. In the aftermath of Neil Dudgeon's dramatic exit from Lorraine Kelly's show, the television industry and general public found themselves deeply divided over the events that had unfolded during that fateful morning segment. Supporters of the actor praised him for standing up for artistic integrity and refusing to be bullied into accepting criticisms that he believed were unfairly targeted at a harmless entertainment series that had brought joy to countless families over the years. They argued that morning talk shows should focus on uplifting content and celebrity stories rather than ambushing guests with loaded questions designed to provoke controversy and generate headlines. On the other side, fans of Lorraine Kelly and those who aligned with her perspective commended the host for using her platform to highlight important conversations about representation and evolution in the arts, suggesting that no program or performer should be above constructive criticism in an increasingly diverse society. Social media platforms buzzed with heated opinions, memes, and video clips edited to emphasize different moments from the fiery exchange, turning the incident into a viral sensation that dominated online discussions for several days following the broadcast. Media outlets rushed to publish articles analyzing the confrontation, interviewing television critics, diversity consultants, and fellow actors to gather a range of viewpoints on whether such on-air debates enriched public discourse or simply created unnecessary division and discomfort. Ratings for that particular episode of Lorraine's show spiked dramatically as curious viewers tuned in to see the full context of what had happened, proving once again that controversy often drives audience engagement even when it stems from unexpected sources. Neil Dudgeon returned to his work on Midsomer Murders with renewed focus, later granting select interviews where he reflected on the importance of maintaining creative freedom in storytelling and expressed hope that future appearances on talk shows would remain civil and focused on the positive aspects of his profession. Lorraine Kelly continued hosting her program with her characteristic resilience, addressing the incident briefly in a subsequent episode by stating that she valued honest conversations and respected differing opinions even when they led to passionate disagreements. The entire episode served as a reminder of the fine line that exists between engaging journalism and confrontational interviewing in the world of entertainment media. Broader implications emerged regarding the expectations placed on celebrities to publicly align with certain social causes and the potential backlash when they choose to prioritize their artistic vision instead. Industry insiders speculated that similar tensions might surface more frequently in the future as cultural debates continued to influence content creation and promotional activities across British television. Reflecting on the entire saga of Neil Dudgeon being effectively pushed to leave Lorraine Kelly's show after their intense and fiery exchange, it becomes clear that this moment captured something much larger than a single television interview gone wrong. It highlighted ongoing cultural shifts and generational differences in how entertainment, politics, and public conversation intersect in modern Britain. The incident prompted many to reconsider the boundaries of daytime programming, questioning whether light-hearted morning shows should venture into provocative territory or stick to safer, more celebratory formats that align with their traditional role of starting the day on a positive note. Fans of Midsomer Murders rallied around the series with increased loyalty, streaming older episodes and sharing fond memories online as a show of support for the program and its star who had defended it so passionately. Meanwhile, discussions about diversity in television continued unabated, with some arguing that organic evolution happens best when driven by audience demand rather than external pressure or on-air confrontations. Neil Dudgeon's dignified departure became a talking point in acting circles, with several colleagues expressing admiration for his willingness to stand by his principles without descending into personal attacks or unprofessional behavior. Lorraine Kelly's reputation as a straightforward interviewer remained largely intact among her core audience, though some viewers admitted feeling that the segment had crossed into uncomfortable territory that detracted from the show's usual welcoming atmosphere. In the weeks that followed, both parties moved forward with their respective careers, but the memory of that dramatic morning lingered as a notable example of how quickly a routine promotional appearance could transform into a significant media event. The story ultimately underscored the complex dynamics at play when celebrity, media, and societal values collide in real time before a live audience. It served as a fascinating case study in public relations management, live television production challenges, and the power of authentic moments to capture public attention in an age of carefully scripted content. Whether viewed as a victory for free expression or a missed opportunity for constructive dialogue, the fiery exchange between Neil Dudgeon and Lorraine Kelly remains etched in the annals of British television history as a reminder that even the most experienced professionals can find themselves navigating treacherous waters when deeply held beliefs come into conflict. As audiences continue to consume media across multiple platforms, such incidents reinforce the idea that genuine passion and differing perspectives will always have the potential to create compelling, if sometimes uncomfortable, television that sparks wider conversations long after the cameras stop rolling. The legacy of that day continues to influence how guests and hosts approach interviews, emphasizing the need for mutual respect and clear boundaries even amid spirited debate.